everyone, my name is Kanika Verma and today I am with Baljit Bawa, the Member of Parliament candidate from the People's Party of Canada from Brampton Centre riding. And today on behalf of all of you, the residents of Brampton Centre, I'm here with Baljit to ask him some questions that I've received from you that concerns our community. So Baljit, I'll start with how does what's happening with Canada right now, the fundamental problems that Canada is facing as a country, how does that relate with your riding, Brampton Centre?
So if I may start with the fundamental problems that Canada is facing is basically the problem of the left fighting with the right and right fighting with the left, where the governance has been left behind. In other words, like the real issues are not being talked about and they are just going back and forth with each other, which means that the ordinary Canadians and the Bramptonians are not getting the proper level of the service for the taxes they are paying.
Right.
If I may say, the Brampton Centre, our unemployment rate is almost 3 points higher than the national average of 5.7 points.
That's a significant number.
It is, yeah. Normally people don't know it, and these numbers are very significant and they are very alarming. Whereas that's where the People's Party comes in, and from my perspective, that we are going to hold every level of the government accountable. And accountability is the key, which brings People's Party into instead of looking for the left and the right, we are moving forward.
And I think that's what we need, right? That's what the people need. That who is going to take care of that?
Exactly.
So, Baljit, the values that make Canada a great country, right, a great nation, and people from all over the world want to make Canada their home. So all those values that make Canada a great nation, and so Brampton, do you think like today we are holding up those values?
Simple answer, no. Because the freedom of expression is under threat. And as we know, censorship seems to be slowly becoming the norm. Especially what's next to be threatened is our freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion. People migrate to Canada for the values that built this country.
Yeah.
Whereas what we have to do is we have to protect our freedom of expression, and that's under threat right now.
Yeah, and that's what I feel is people are choosing Canada today over other countries that have been like immigrant countries in the past. People are choosing Canada today for those values. So if they're threatened, it's going to be really hard.
That's very true, and as I mentioned, said that we must have to do something to protect the freedom of expression.
Exactly. Baljit, our residents would also like to know that is the government of Canada becoming too much of a burden on people's lives?
Yes, to a larger extent. And for example, it's too complex a tax structure. I mean,
Yes.
we need to simplify how we do our taxes. Government regulations should be minimal, and and it should ensure that no citizen is unfairly advantaged. In other words, the accommodations which right now are happening just to please a certain portion of the communities or certain portion of the population. Now, corporate welfare is a big problem, and that makes the small business the growth of the small business very difficult.
Very true.
Now, and there are no breaks for the small businesses. People's Party is thinking of that very strongly, where we want to make the tax structure the most simplified tax structure, and there's no corporate welfare, in other words, and that will make the lives much more lesser burdened by the government by putting a small government in place.
Right, I should think your answer covers that, like how people should get more returns on, how they're working hard for this country and to make their lives better. So it should be the other way around.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the previous answer also, that government should interfere less in people's lives than manage the country, and which means small government with the freedom to the citizens of the country.
That's correct. Baljit, you mentioned all the crisis that the country is facing these days. So what do you think is your take, your party's take on how the Liberals and Conservatives have handled such crisis so far?
So both Conservatives and Liberals, they have kept Canada subdued. We should have been far more prosperous than what we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Conservatives talked about small government, but
Okay.
they never delivered it. We had their majority government, never did that. Liberals will never talk of the small government because they favor the spendings. They have always talked about more spendings, which will inevitably increase the size of the government.
Mhm.
Now, Jean Chrétien was the different type of a liberal who turned a 20 billion deficit into 2 billion, approximately, 4 billion surplus within 2 years.
Wow.
He was the only one, and that's what People's Party is also mentioning it, that we want to balance the budget within 2 years. Now, this has never done. It's not that it has not been done before. We will do it again.
Mhm.
And-
So I see People's Party of Canada having the capability to mitigate those crises.
Exactly, because right now, as I mentioned before, the lefts and the rights, they are fighting among each other without addressing the real issues.
Yeah.
And People's Party stand committed and accountable for making sure that we are not left, not right, but forward.
Thank you so much, Baljit, for taking out time to answer all these questions for our residents of Brampton Centre. And thank you for working so hard for our community. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And so that you get a chance to serve our community. And I request all of you to keep sending us such questions so that Baljit can answer that for you. Thank you for watching.